What is the creepiest, most disturbing internet rabbit hole you've gone down, and why?
I bought my brother a taser from Amazon for his birthday one time. Looking at some of the questions, there was one asking if it hurt. The answer went something like, "It does not. I've tased myself in the neck 30 times. Very interested in this, I go to his Amazon profile where you can see what else he has reviewed, and he reviewed a katana and stuff like that of similar nature. Still interested, so I type his name into Facebook and find a profile with a picture of him holding his katana. The first thing I notice is that he's from my city. Second thing is there are so many people posting to his Facebook saying he's the devil and they can't believe what he'd done and that they hope he rots and stuff like that. Extremely interested at this point, I Google his name and find news articles that he stabbed a guy in the chest in his apartment with a katana. Then fled and was later caught by police. Turns out he was very delusional and really needed help. He's now in jail, and according to the article looks like he's getting the help he needs. It was a very wild ride from just looking at the stupid questions people ask about products on Amazon. And #X200B, edit, screenshot of answer on Amazon, https://i.imager.com/vl4np44.png closing parenthesis, news article, NSFW, https://www.riverfront.times.com/Saluis/Seth-Herta-Samurai-Murder-St-Louis, content, OID equals 21,968,365 and show full text equals true. I ordered the stun gun on July 31, 2018. The article linked was posted on July 25, 2018.
Blogs by people who are obsessed with losing limbs and/or having them replaced with hooks, etc. Some went through with accidents, where they mashed their hands beyond repair in order to achieve their goal.
A LAN school. It's pretty famous, but for those who never heard of it, American school that lasted for 40 years, that was as close to a concentration camp for children as you could get.
Reading about John Jones, the spelunker who got stuck upside down in a narrow crevice at Nutty Putty Cave in 2009, scared the hell out of me. Rescuers got to his feet, talked to him for hours, but just couldn't get him out. Ultimately the cave was sealed with his body inside. https://cavehaven.com/nutty-putty-cave-accident/.
There's a doc called The Bridge, which captured 23 of the 24 suicides from the Golden Gate Bridge in SF in 2004. Apparently the bridge is wildly popular suicide site. By 2004, there had been more than 1,200 suicides, with a 98% death rate. Anyway, it's really dark and sent me on a little research expedition of the suicides. Apparently, the 2% that survive say they instantly regretted jumping mid-air. And that starts to make you think about suicides and how much pain people are in to take that step, and yet there is a shock of clarity once they've done the irreversible. Just reading about that desperation and sadness triggered so much in me, I really can't go down those rabbit holes anymore. Pulled up a site once that had pictures of celebs that were taken after they died, the most prominent one I remember being that of Chris Farley. Fuck, that's something I'll never forget.
Saudi Arabia's leading executioner, Mohammed Saad al-Beshi. He mostly decapitates people with a sword. I read interviews with him. I wanted to know if that shit haunts him. No, it doesn't. He's already teaching his son to follow in his footsteps. His children also help him clean the blood off his sword. Then I started looking into what was considered capital offenses and other punishments used. Stoning is one. Certain crimes will get the beheaded body crucified.
Unit 731. What they did is really fucked up. Greater than. In other tests, subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the length of time until death. Placed into low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped from the sockets. Experimented upon to determine the relationship between temperature, burns, and human survival. Electrocuted. Placed into centrifuges and spun until death. Injected with animal blood. Exposed to lethal doses of X-rays. Subjected to various chemical weapons inside gas chambers. Injected with seawater. And burned or buried alive. Less than.
Looking up pictures of people who hit the ground after falling from great heights. I looked it up mostly out of morbid curiosity. Definitely would not recommend for anyone with a weak stomach.
Researching attachment therapy, as used on kids diagnosed with attachment disorders, aka holding time, compression therapy, coercive restraint therapy, rebirthing. I don't feel like typing out the details, but a quote from Wiki and link is below. It's messed up and has resulted in several child deaths and lots of long-lasting trauma. I have no idea why I kept reading and watching videos, etc., but I spent an entire night researching it. It was horrifying. Maybe I felt like I owed it to the victims to read their stories. I don't remember. A central feature of many of these therapies is the use of psychological, physical, or aggressive means to provoke the child to catharsis, ventilation of rage, or other sorts of acute emotional discharge. To do this, a variety of coercive techniques are used, including scheduled holding, binding, rib cage stimulation, e.g., tickling, pinching, knuckling, and/or licking. Children may be held down, may have several adults lie on top of them, or their faces may be held so they can be forced to engage in prolonged eye contact. Sessions may last from 3 to 5 hours, with some sessions reportedly lasting longer. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/attachment_therapy edit. I'm glad this thread seems to have given catharsis and clarity to some recipients of this abusive therapy, and other forms of abuse, and a space to share and discuss stories. To all of these people, I am so sorry. I wish all of you the best in healing, moving forward, and flourishing. Edit 2. Someone has created a sub for survivors of attachment therapy. Survivors of AT.
A straightforward guy wrote down his experiences with heroin. Basically he wanted to try it for fun and he was sure that he had enough willpower to stop after that. Well, he was wrong. Probably someone can remember the name of the guy or the Reddit post. It's fairly well known, I believe.
Cave diving accidents. They're always tragic and sad and insanely common in the community due to the dangers of cave diving. But they have been to some of the most untouched areas of Earth, and I kind of get the need to keep exploring even if it's dangerous.
I have fallen down too. Both lasted about a week. First was John. Jane does who have never been claimed or identified. Second was people who have disappeared without a trace. I feel this one tugged more on my emotional strings, especially stories involving kids. One that has stuck with me is a little boy who disappeared on a scout hike, Jared Negrete. That is one of my greatest fears when I take kids hiking.
A sci-fi timeline PDF I found a while back, I think it was on the World Building sub. It was a timeline of humanity that started it off relatively normal, detailing human evolution as they colonized Mars and the stars beyond. It descended into body horror when they came into contact with an advanced race that for some reason I forget gene-modded the majority of humans into non-sentient species and seeded them across the galaxy. It then went into great detail with each of these species separately and their climb back to sentience. It ended with one of the new humans that evolved back to sentience standing beside her original human skull. I haven't been able to find it since, but shit got dark. Edit. I found it again. It's All Tomorrows, a billion-year chronicle of the myriad species and varying fortunes of man.
Deaths on Mount Everest and how a lot of the bodies are still up there. This was a wiki rabbit hole I fell into after listening to the Casefile episode on David Sharp. Read not only about him but also Green Boots, this couple that got separated, etc. Due to the extremely cold temperatures, the bodies aren't that decomposed, so they still look recent even though it's been years or decades. It's creepy and sad. Some bodies have been there so long they are used as markers for climbers. What is also sad is that there have been efforts to remove them, but doing so is extremely dangerous because of the altitude, temperatures, and uneven ground. People have died attempting it in the past. Not sure if they've managed to succeed since I last read about it in 2018. Edit. I'm not 100% sure the podcast was Casefile since I listened to the episode 1 mentioned 3 years ago. It could have been another true crime podcast. Also, thanks for my first Reddit award.
This will sound mild compared to the stories of actual torture and war crimes, but I heard the whole story about a Reddit user named Jason in hell. For those who don't know, it was the real story of a man who posted in our relationships about his wife cheating on him with a neighbor. Jason finally decides he's going to leave his wife and take the kids with him, but then the wife actually murdered the children while he was away at work. Jason made a follow-up post about dealing with the pain and grief of what happened, but he seems to be doing his best despite everything that happened. Edit. Thank you for all the awards, guys. I didn't expect this to blow up at all. For those who mentioned the channel, yes, I do remember this from Nexpo. I'm a long-time subscriber.
Bug chases because someone asked what the creepiest, most disturbing internet rabbit hole was.
There's this guy on Facebook, I wish I could remember his name, but he married his sex doll and has photos together of them everywhere. At first I thought it was a troll account, but the more I looked the creepier it got. The dates on the photos dated back years, and he showed off his doll's wardrobe and all the possessions he had of hers, and then there were multiple friend accounts of different sex dolls on his page. That's completely public, but genuinely the weirdest part to me was that he lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Like, imagine if someone accidentally ended up there. Edit. I spent an hour last night looking for it, and surprisingly it's apparently more common than I thought. WTF is wrong with people anyways. I'll look some more today because it was a viral share.
The murder of Junko Furuta.
It was 3 months ago, in the AskReddit thread, what is something you regret knowing? Or something. A user called out another user as the person we all know exists among us, but have never met. The comment was removed by a moderator, so I can't tell you either user involved, but let me sum it up for you. The user being called out is clearly a psychopath. Her entire post history is that they have a pseudosexual desire to vivisect and torture another person to death. She admits she has this desire, and it is a pretty obsessive desire based on their framing, and believe wholeheartedly that everyone has these desires, and they are normal. They adamantly argue that the only reason people deny having those feelings is because of the social taboo of it, and that everyone around them is lying to save face, that they are the only person with the gall to admit it. They claim they will never act on it, because the fear of getting caught is too great, but that seems to be their only inhibition. She has multiple, buried, dead in the water threads in this subreddit asking questions like, why are people afraid to talk about this shared feeling? What is your murder fantasy? How would you dissect a living person if you knew you could get away with it? They claim to be asexual. Clearly that otherwise sexual desire is redirected toward this, based on the enthusiasm they have in talking about it. She claims that the only people she has shared these feelings with in her real life are her mother, and her husband. The most unsettling thing is, the last I checked, she was trying with her husband to get pregnant. It's been on my mind a lot as of late, in that it is a prime example of a mentally unwell person saying, I'm like this, and I'm normal. Therefore, everyone is like this because normal people are like this, and this concept had been coming up a lot in my personal life as of late.
Temple OS is a trip. Worth the read. The guy behind it was pretty genuinely insane. Literally and figuratively, he used his homebrew OS to talk to God, and believed he was married to a YouTuber that didn't talk to him.